all of you visit with us today to get this opportunity of wonderful information that we're going to be presenting to you today. I want to take this opportunity to thank the partnership with Marita, so I don't get it messed up, DC Small Business Development Center Network at Howard University. I want to thank you all for joining us today and the partnership. The information that you're bringing forth is going to be well received by our small business contracting community. It's an amazing opportunity to partnership with you all, and we really appreciate your time and effort here this morning. I also want to thank my phenomenal team, led Small Business Program Office, led by Michelle Howard. You all do a phenomenal job each and every time with these events and finding the wonderful speakers that are rich with information for our small business community. So thank you for your effort. I bring greetings from my general manager, Randy Clark. Relatively new to the organization. We can't say real new. He joined the organization in July, and he's a ball of fire. You should see him all over the region. He's promoting WMATA and Metro and the things that we're doing here. He rides the system, and he talks a lot about riding the system and making the system better. The pillars of his vision right now are focused on customer centricity, safety, security, and also DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. He talks about bringing the ridership back, bringing that public trust back. So right now we're averaging about 300,000 daily on the bus and about 280,000 on the rail. Pre-pandemic, the numbers were up around 800,000 to 1 million. So we still have a ways to go, but we're talking every day about safety and security, on-time service. That's where the focus is. So I know y'all know that we've had some challenges with safety at Metro, working hard to improve all of that and make our public feel safe on our system. So that's one area I wanted to talk about. Anybody listening, if your business's security, safety in any regard, we're looking for you. We have all kinds of opportunities out there right now. We are negotiating MOUs with a local jurisdiction to bring police officers on board. We want a presence in all of our stations. So that's a heavy lift because we have 97 stations. So, but we're looking for that type of reinforcement. We're modifying contracts, putting new contracts out on the street. So reach out to us if you have that type of business. Another focus for our general manager is the talented workforce that we have. And so we are augmenting our workforce with contract employees. So another area, if you have any type of human capital service or business, we're looking for you also to help augment our staff. And then at large, the small business minority community, we have tons of opportunities here at Metro. We talk about our awards that we did last fiscal year was $2.2 billion. That's part of our capital program, and we look forward to doing similar numbers this year in all different areas of the business. Anything from construction, we're doing new garages, we are doing new railways for our train systems. We're also building new stations also for our train systems. We have beautiful new office buildings, and we're building new facilities for our maintenance. So if you're in the construction business, you need to be getting in contact with us as well. IT is another huge area of our business that we're looking for all type of IT firms to work with us. But any type of maintenance, landscaping, hardscaping, we do all of that, and we have contracts for all of those type of businesses. So in short, what I'm trying to say is we need your support to keep our programs moving forward. And we're here today to talk to you about how you can be ready for some of these opportunities. When people come to you, you want to be ready to jump into that opportunity. So the first thing I want to say to you is listen today. This is one of those opportunities where if you're not already automating your business operations, this may be an opportunity for you to make you more nimble, more flexible, but you need to be ready for when somebody comes to you with an opportunity. The other thing is to be registered with WMATA to do business. And I know the team will talk to you also about certification and those things, but you have to be registered to do business with WMATA because we do have programs where small businesses will be prime contractors. So the registration is very important. Also, that's how we communicate with you when new opportunities come out. That's how you get the information and be on the forefront of reaching out to us and being available for those opportunities. So if nothing else today, you walk away with, make sure you're registered to do business with WMATA. So I hope you have your ears open and open to listening and learning this morning, because that's what the organization is here to do today. So with that, thank you, Michelle. It's all on you. I'm passing the torch.
Thank you so much, Suzette. Thank you for all that great information. As you see, we do have a lot of things going on here at Metro, and that means we are open for business. So we want to make sure that you're a part of that. So once again, welcome and thank you for participating today with WMATA Small Business Programs Office Outreach. We are in collaboration with the DC Small Business Development Center Network at Howard University. We're going to bring you the Business Success Series, and today we're going to start off with Volume 1, Grow Your Business with Automated Business Operations. We are so excited about this collaboration because the DC Small Business Development Center adds so much support and value to the success of small businesses on a regular basis. As Suzette mentioned, she talked about certification. Here at WMATA, certification is the key to participation, and we encourage all certified and those not certified small businesses, come on over and get certified with WMATA. We have 5 socioeconomic programs that you can be certified in. We have our 2 federal programs, which is the DVE and SBE programs. And if you do not know, we do have new non-federally funded programs, which is our minority business program, small and micro business program. So we got them. We want you to come over here and get certified in them. We are definitely open for business, and we want you to be a part of our contracting opportunities, as Suzette mentioned. We are your Metro, and we are making you take the way forward along with us, okay? Today, I want you to please remember to fill out your surveys that will be sent to you after the outreach. These surveys help us to plan events that can benefit or support your business growth. So they're very important to us so we can have the topics that you need when it comes to your business. Again, I want to thank you for attending. And right now, I am going to introduce you to Mr. Charles Mott. Charles is currently the Associate Director at the DC Small Business Development Center at Howard University here in Washington, D.C. In his capacity, he works directly with the Executive Director in planning, implementing, managing, evaluating, and reviewing reporting activities throughout the DC network for the U.S. Small Business Administration. He also counsels numerous small business clients, providing technical assistance, training, assistance with access to capital, and business research. In 2021 alone, he counseled over 125 small businesses. So, hey, that's a lot that's going on over there. And Charles is making sure he's getting all of you taken care of. So without further ado, I'm going to send it over to you, Charles.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And also wanted to thank this opportunity to collaborate on this series of workshops. We know that this series is just one of many events that we look forward to working with Metro on to bring information and education to our small businesses that we serve in the DMV area. I bring greetings on behalf of Carl Brown, our Executive Director at the DC SBDC, and the team that serves our small business community. Just last year, we counseled over 807 clients. Now, the exciting part about our services is that they are free of charge. We're an SBA resource partner, similar to SCORE and the Women's Small Business Center in DC. So we're excited to both serve the small business community with our various services, and also excited again, as I mentioned, with collaborating with Metro. I have the pleasure now of introducing our speaker, who is one of our clients at the DC Small Business Development Center, Mr. Michael Charles. I'm going to read his bio. What I love about his bio is that it's not the standard fare that you see, but it brings out the excitement about him and how he not only serves his clients, business clients, but also serves the community. Michael Charles is CEO and founder of SolutionMet LLC. He's in love with technology and passionate about people. He has served over 20 years in senior engineering and leadership roles, including Director of Software Engineering, Technical Director, and Enterprise Solution Architect. He brings a deep subject matter expertise in areas that bridge technology and business management, and has a wealth of experience directing strategic planning to support federal agencies and commercial businesses. And if I could add to that, I'd like to say that Michael has been one of our stellar clients. I have to say that as much as we've counseled him, he has been a resource for us for information and in terms of showing us what a small business can do with the proper guidance. So without further ado, I'd like to turn over the presentation to him. Thanks, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So first off, just thank you to everybody. I'm going to share my screen at the same time so we can start and jump right in. But it's an absolute pleasure to be able to speak. And it's a topic that I am very passionate about. So in the chat, if you do have questions, please put them there. We'll try to have questions at the end, but I do prefer to have interactive sessions when possible. So again, just kind of starting off a little bit about myself. Like Charles said, 20 plus years in the industry. What I've learned about myself over that period of time is, again, I love technology. I'm a geek at heart. I've been developing software and solutions and systems and had a pleasure to do what I love. But in that course of time, I've realized that I'm really passionate about people development. And that's actually transitioned to helping organizations and companies understand those pain points between technology and how to have people use technology effectively. So we'll jump right in. So the first kind of question I have is what are some of the industries? I saw on the chat as we began, there were a couple of different industries. So go ahead and put in your chat group, what industry do you represent? So I have a sense of how we go forward, and that would be great to begin. Let's see here. But I'll go ahead and jump forward. So some of the first things is technology in the small businesses. So I think one of the important pieces, and again, I am also a small business. While I've worked in larger industries, GDIT, Capital One, one of the things that I decided when starting as a small business was, hey, I want to be able to replicate what it was that I did in these larger industries for myself and at a smaller scale. And even being a technologist, one of the first things that I kind of stumbled across was the tools that were available to us, and realizing that there are just so many decision points. What technology, what platform did you use? How do you automate? How do you streamline? And while I'll say that I probably know more than most, I understand firsthand, even being an expert in my field, just the pain points that we have as small businesses to do very simple things from a technology perspective. One of the biggest pain points is really how do you get to a point that you can trust technology over your manual processes? Even setting up something as simple as setting up a webinar. There seems to always be technical issues or technical glitches, things that fail or don't necessarily work as expected, or they're not necessarily fully understood. These are kind of common problems that we have in small businesses and sometimes even in our day-to-day lives from a technology perspective. So let's just take a look at some of the numbers and really get to why we should be focusing on automation. So first off, when you're looking at the case of automation, you'll see a couple important stats. 45% of work activities, right, in day-to-day small businesses could be automated directly using technology. So if you think about 45%, what that means in terms of time, that can create an immediate efficiency and a return on investment of your time. As a CEO, I'm a CEO of my organization. I know this all too well. 20% could be spent automating using current technologies. So personally, I continue to look daily and look at opportunities and prioritize prioritize things that are rote or manual and looking for opportunities there. Across the wage, I looked it up, the stat recently, I believe, according to the stats, there are 33 million small businesses registered in the state of US. So looking at that, that means that there's $2 trillion in annual wages that we are spending as small businesses, and we are paying individuals to do things that are manual. So when you look at what does that mean for your business, that's money that you can best be served in other areas. So for me, that's a huge motivator. When I just look at my finances and when I look at my overhead, this is also a very, very important thing as we are contractors competing with others. Reducing overhead is a really huge indicator and a key motivator for me personally, and I know for others as well. So looking a little bit more of the stats. So this slide I wanted to just show, and I'll explain it. I know it's data, I love data, but there was a 5.1% growth in IT this year. Last year, I believe it was a 4.8% growth. And then you can really just look at different in software and devices in IT. And what is the important thing to look at here is you're seeing this clear trend of just year over year growth of IT services, of technology that's emerging. Why is this important? It's really important to understand because it kind of creates this domino effect. As larger companies develop faster, more effective, more efficient solutions, as a small business, we benefit because as they trickle down or have that domino effect, they become more cost effective to us, they become tested, and it really levels the playing field. It allows us to operate at a level, at a pace and a level of accuracy with larger organizations our size. So when you are unsure whether you as an organization should invest in technology, you can look at the market and see that it is a continuing upward trend of spending, and that spending leads to innovation, and that innovation for us definitely leads to opportunity. And if there are questions in the chat, let's just see really quick. I'm seeing going back, seeing a lot of different markets, so that's fantastic. Civil engineering, product management, construction, pharmacy, that's fantastic. So as we continue, more stats, 84% of small businesses rely on manual processes. This is whether you are taking time in accounting and putting it into invoicing. This is whether you're exporting data and putting it into a spreadsheet. This is whether you have email systems and you're communicating to individuals, but it relies on a human to pull in information and respond. You'll see 69% of businesses, and this is a particular pain point and passion area of mine, is to eliminate the use of spreadsheets in so many businesses. You would be amazed as the number of customers that I deal with at an enterprise level that a spreadsheet or Excel is at the backbone of their business. I can have a webinar on this topic alone because it resonates with so many. Critical data points, trying to make decisions on a spreadsheet, it's a great starting point, but it's a difficult place to be successful because your data for the most part is static. And in today's day, we need analytics, we need real-time information to be able to be more decisive and have clear decision points, whether it be in numbers for accounting, whether it be forecasting, there's a lot of different areas. And then the last stat here that's also important is 40%, that's 1/4, right, of time are spent on just repetitive tasking. I'll speak to my organization, the way in which we track work, I call an area business as usual, and it'll be here in the slide deck, where they're just tasks that you have to do to keep the lights on in your business. But the goal and the sweet spot is identifying how can you do business as usual tasks in a way that are effective and accurate and reduce your overhead as well. So continuing to just look at some of the numbers post-COVID. COVID was a real level setting. It really leveled the playing field for a lot of organizations. And while some organizations were devastated as a result of COVID and the lack of interaction in people, other organizations were able to pivot and transform. But the playing field leveled because what you saw is technology took an upfront center stage. The need to remote work became paramount for every organization. And by and large, the only way that was available was for you to adopt a technology platform. So you saw it, stock, for example, in Zoom went up the roof, whether it be Zoom, whether it be Teams, whether it be Google Meet. or there's so many other opportunities or options. You absolutely had to embrace technology in order to thrive, in order to make up that difference for how you were interacting and engaging with customers. It became commonplace for us, for example, to be on a webinar and to group and to have video chat. All of those things were the technology and the platform behind the scenes. So at the same time, while prayerfully we are past and in this true post-pandemic world, you can still absolutely take advantage of the technology that has come about as a result. So here, 80%, right, post-COVID business impact are facing new challenges related to COVID-19. This was a real impact in terms of your entire business model not only had to change, but potentially had to now pivot back as we go back to what we would consider normal or this new normal. So you see 60% of processes we had to develop new processes to address. Businesses had to change, how you communicated had to change. So there were just a lot of challenges in terms of managing your overall business at large. So here's the real question. What's holding back your business? And if you feel free, you can put it in the chat so others can see and talk. But I'd ask that question to you. What's really holding you back? What's holding back your business? And I would challenge you to see if any of these resonate. These are not in any particular order, but for some businesses, it's a legacy thinking or an outdated strategy. Again, embracing technology is really hard sometimes because maybe we use technology, but we're still on it. So legacy technology, I mentioned the state of Excel. Excel is predominantly used across the industry, but I would challenge to say that it is a legacy technology. It's great for things and certain, it's a solution for some things, but not necessarily to run businesses at scale. Another area, time wasted on manual processes and tasks. If you were to really catalog, and I do encourage every business to do this, catalog the amount of time that you spend running your business. Because if you have the ability to do that, you can actually quantify and say, hey, here are the opportunities that I can really delegate to a system or to a process and identify the technology that can potentially help. And when I say technology, we'll get into it, but there are certain tools and packages and suites that you can purchase for use that can absolutely help you. The other pain point for companies and organizations who are using technology, for example, in the federal space, we have to have time and accounting systems and invoicing. So there's technology behind that. But some organizations and companies have systems that just don't talk to each other, or you have to manually import and export to go from system A to system B. But at the same time, that's a manual process. You have two functioning systems that work well, but they just don't talk to each other in between. Another pain point that I know is just the knowledge or the lack of skill set. Most, if not all, small businesses do not have the luxury of having an IT professional or having somebody on site who can manage all of their technology end to end. So that affects you because in terms of how do you handle security? How do you protect your data? What happens for disaster recovery if your system or platform goes down? And then the last one is just managing complexity. The answer is yes. Technology moves at a pace. There's always new technology, figuring out how to get system A to talk to system B and to export and output into a valuable product. It is complex and it does take time. So staying up and understanding new technology, that's also, in my opinion, and what I've seen professionally, is something that absolutely continues to get in the way of businesses feeling the need to embrace. But I say that, so we'll talk about how do we step into the future. So there really is this kind of tipping point. I had this great conversation recently with, again, I'll say it this way. Charles Mott, for example, is somebody that I look to as a mentor, and I attempt to have individuals at different businesses. And I made the comment to them around, hey, you need to make time to eat in order for your business to grow. And the analogy that I gave to him, I said, eat, you got to really explore. You have to adapt your way of thinking, and then you have to take that to transform how you think about your work and your business. So one of the first areas that we'll say to start is you have to prepare to address your challenges. Identifying, quantifying, taking time to sit down, write, what are your biggest pain points? What are the areas that are taking the majority of your time? And what are the areas that are taking the majority of your cost? The next step I'd recommend is a little bit of what you're doing now, right? Increasing your digital awareness. understanding, adapting, taking inventory of what the tools and the technology are out in your space. That's an important part to get a sense of what you're doing. And the last thing is share and collaborate around your journey. You'd be amazed how many other small businesses are exactly where you are or where you'd like to be, or have had a similar pain point and solved it. So starting to get into communities where you feel comfortable and you feel confident being vulnerable to say, hey, we do time entry, but our invoices are manual. How do I automate that process? Because I want to make sure that there's a level of accuracy for when we're billing a customer. And the amount of time it takes me to get that invoice, share those stories. I would really encourage you, because you'd find out that others are in very similar positions that you are, or have solved that challenge as well. And then there's other, obviously, organizations like myself who can help you. But here's the hard truth. The hard truth is, no matter how much you'd like to, you absolutely cannot separate your business from the technology, right? Some folks would like to feel like it's an adage, like it's something different. The technology that I use is somehow separate. But I'll give maybe a horrible analogy, because I use a lot of them. It's like a gardener. A gardener really can't separate himself from the tools. A gardener, for example, he can come to your home and till the land with his hands, but he'll only get but so far. Then the next evolution is he can use a shovel, but then that shovel can only dig a hole but so deep. And you kind of escalate. At some point, you need to have tools that will make the time and the work more effective, more accurate, more complete. It saves you time and effort. It saves you accuracy. It saves you having to repeat as well. So again, some stats, and I love, like I said, I love data. So I use these stats to be compelling as to why we should be in this realm, why you should be looking at systems, why you should frame it. Again, I'm saying you have to explore, you got to adapt, and you have to really transform. So we're looking at just business leaders, right, who agree that if I could enable processes for automation, that I think that I would be able to thrive. So we're all in agreement that that has to happen. So the questions come around, how do we embrace it? It's the exact same thing. It's reframing the legacy thinking. The work that we do today, for the most part, was framed on concepts maybe 30, 40 years ago. But you see this invent of technology. ChatGPT, for example, it's this technology that is completely changing the way individuals think about schooling, about research, about information, about thought. And a legacy way of thinking would say, hey, I may reject the idea of that technology or that platform. But if we have the ability to reframe our thinking, it says, hey, these technologies, these platforms, these tools, how can these tools aid or accelerate the type of work that I'm doing? The other area that I'd absolutely recommend is taking the time to really understand what managed services are. So I'll give an analogy, and I'll use Google, for example. Most folks have a Gmail account. Well, businesses years ago would manage email themselves, and they would have servers and have to be responsible for memory. And when Gmail and other services like that came about, it became what's called a managed service. You sign up for a product, and whether you use the free tier or the paid tier, you trust that Google behind the scenes has all of their technology in place to serve you email. So at the end of the day, you're not focused on whether the server works. You're not focused on how the email protocol got from point A to point B. You're not even necessarily focused on whether it's secure. You have a level of trust in the service that you chose to manage what you wanted. And what you want is you just want to communicate. I just want to be able to talk to my employees. I want to be able to talk to my customers. In the world of technology for small businesses, looking and understanding managed services is a game changer for you. Let's say, for example, you are attempting to reach out to multiple customers. Well, if you're using email to do that, you realize you may have a single point of failure in terms of you have a pipe. You have a limited number of people in your small business that can respond to emails. An option, if it makes sense, look at platforms that are managed service, such as whether it be ServiceNow, Salesforce, other products in that space that create a portal so you can communicate to multiple individuals, and your pipe grows larger, because instead of everybody having to log in and look at the same email, you have the ability to communicate through email, through your portal, and you can now outreach and engage with other individuals at a much larger scale than what you could if you were thinking in a more legacy or tool first approach versus a managed service. The third is I would absolutely agree and say, adopt a cloud first approach. I still find, especially when working with small businesses, that they tend to rely on whether it be a physical laptop or a server or a storage device, and not necessarily understanding and trusting the services that live in the cloud. I'll comment a few pieces here and not necessarily go into depth, but from a storage and a security perspective, data retention is a really important piece. If you need information, I can't tell you how many small businesses that I've worked with that had all their data, as simple as it sounds, on a hard drive, and something happened to that hard drive that they couldn't access it anymore. Their entire lifeblood was in that, and their business operations came to a halt. Or the same context for a laptop that was their primary work laptop, and if that laptop crashed or something happened to it, they couldn't operate anymore. Having your business in the cloud and the services that are in a secure manner makes it very easy for you to go from device to device and have what I'll call a continuity of operations. For example, I have my laptop and I have my phone. My information and my services are stored in the certain services in the cloud such that I can go seamlessly from my laptop to my phone or to another device. They're all secured, but if anything were to happen to this laptop, for example, my business continues on. I can move and I can log back into another device, and I have zero downtime from that perspective. So a cloud first and the approaches to using the cloud, that's just one example and opportunity. I'm gonna look at the chat for a second. If there's any questions, we'll definitely talk at the end. So again, thinking about reframing, we talked a little bit about these pieces, but again, just reframing thinking, evolve our thinking in the types of capabilities and the types of challenges. Begin balancing what it is that I'm doing day to day with who else has solved this problem. Like we said, there's a lot of money being spent in technology. You're going to identify that there are multiple services that are attempting to solve your problem for a price. We talked about the understanding the managed services. I spent a little bit of time here, but again, focusing on managed services, I think for small businesses, it's a game changer because instead of having an IT department, you have a platform that manages it. Why also this is relatively important from a managed service as a contractor. I'll say in my space, we provide a fair amount of support for state, federal, and local, and they have compliancy requirements, for example, for data retention, for storage, or for audit purposes. One of the things that we do is when we use managed services, it would be very difficult as a small business. We don't have the overhead, we don't have the staff to be responsible for managing every single compliance portion that's identified in our statement of work. However, if we can use a managed service and that managed service has those compliancies baked into their service, it becomes an opportunity for us to say, yes, here's how I am meeting that requirement. And you have a level of guarantee and a level of confidence in the services that are being used. So that's just another area as a small business. Yes, there's a cost to using the managed service, but what you get back in terms of time, what you get back in terms of accuracy, and what you get back in terms of security and compliance, it's something that you should absolutely measure in your overall return on investment. Again, we talked about the cloud first approach. I won't necessarily go into depth here, but there are multiple cloud services. Again, depending on, the managed services is one area going in cloud. So there's obviously the Microsoft Azure cloud in terms of using their storage capabilities for just your day-to-day documents. The Microsoft platform, I'm agnostic from that perspective. I'm not really a technology evangelist for any one particular brand, but Google, for example, has their platform with Google Drive, and you can be able to share and collaborate. Microsoft has their own. Oracle has a cloud platform that can work. What I see for a lot of small businesses is they tend to use the Microsoft Exchange or the G Suite or Google Workspace because it kind of gives them email and capabilities and work and collaboration tools out of the box that allows them to manage and do their business well. And a lot of those services integrate with other platforms and tools. So that's really a great way to expand. The other piece that I would say is embrace multi-cloud. When you're using tools and technology, it is, I'll say it, a risk in some aspects to go all in on an AWS cloud service. And if and when AWS has its outages, or if and when Microsoft Azure has its outages, your business can potentially, be completely dependent. So understanding enough to feel comfortable and embracing multi-cloud would be another area that I'd recommend. So again, cross-cutting kind of security constraints. Again, I could not talk about technology and automation without talking security. They really are tied in together. So one of the things that's relatively important is making sure that in any of your decisioning, any of the tools that you use today or any tools that you are considering, make sure that you're paying attention to how they are securing your information. You want to make sure that the information in transit and at rest. What does that mean? That means that if your information is physically sitting in something, a hard drive, a laptop, or in the cloud, you want to understand the level of encryption that is there. Again, if that doesn't make sense, we can Google it and I can share with you after. You can contact me. Why is this important? It's important because if you've seen, the majority of our data is out there in the world in some shape or form or the other. If that information gets out, you want there to be a lock and a key on that information, that you are the only person that has a key to access your information. That is why the encryption portion. The second one is the same concept for protecting your data. Have a plan around any and all data you have. Have a plan for how you intend to protect that data. One of the things that I recommend folks be careful and ask questions. There are tools and services that offer you to integrate. For example, I'll use Google as an example again. If you use Google Workspace and you're attempting to log into another service using that same Google authentication, you want to really take time to read what permissions are you giving service X to your Google. What many people don't necessarily realize is when they're integrating tools to help them integrate, they're actually giving permission to some external third-party tool to read and access the information that is inside your data center, your cloud data center. So that's just an area that I would recommend. The third would be a plan for disaster recovery. You have to have a plan if and when you should assume disaster is not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And having a plan for how can you restore your entire business to operations. And I'll use the finance aspect, right? Because for many businesses, that's the lifeblood. I know for mine, it is. I have to have invoicing. I have to have time and accounting. We have to have a plan in place that if that system were to fail or the managed service were to fail, how can I still, what are the backup and the retentions and recovery? You have to know if that goes down. I recommend knowing how many hours in time would it take you to be back up and running. You would have to also understand how much data would we lose if a system were to go down. So those are some security considerations that I would absolutely recommend that be a part of your conversations with your managed service providers or your teams internally. So as we go and we're looking at time, the question is, where do we begin? So we'll start with you really want to define, organize, and let's focus. So a couple of areas to kind of bring this together that I would really recommend for areas of focus. And these are not all of them, but these are areas that we can bring in. So the first is what I call business as usual. For us in my organization, I'll use this as an example. When I'm working and collaborating with my team, I purposely choose not to use email as the primary way to communicate. For my organization, it's really important that the day-to-day activity, if an individual sends me an email and I am at a conference on a webinar, someone else can't necessarily do the work because Michael Charles was the only one to see it. So we use a task management system that keeps track of all the information. And in that system, if, for example, there's a task that was assigned to me, we have automation that says, hey, start nagging us if somebody hasn't looked at this in 3 to 4 days. So in our organization, as an example, if somebody needs something from the CEO, they have it in a task management system. They don't have to wait and see, does Michael Charles read his email? They can know, hey, how many days has it been or how many hours, and they can elevate it. So they can say, hey, Michael, this is a risk, this is an issue, and they can track it. So there's a lot of areas in that business as usual support area. For every organization is different, but to me, what I call BAU, it's the portion of your organization that you have to keep your lights on. It's the day-to-day portion of it. Areas here, payroll and accounting, for example, as we move into the finance section, would be another area that I would call out. Your time and accounting systems, your forecasting, those are areas that you can absolutely begin to automate. In my line of work, we often have to forecast and estimate when certain contracts or estimations will be at a certain budget level. If I had to do that manually, I'd be in spreadsheets. I would not sure if I was doing it accurate. And I owe my customers a level of accuracy and a level of confidence in the information that I'm putting in. So I use automation here to really give me not just, I'll say not just speed, but the combination of speed and accuracy. In the IT field, when you're developing and delivering solutions, we typically say speed kills. And the only way to get around that is looking to automate, meaning you have to repeat the same process and expect similar results. That's where the automation comes in. On the customer and people portions, again, looking at tools, having systems in place that individuals, for example, if they need to change benefits and information around how you manage for your internal employees, if you have them, having systems in place that can help do that on your behalf using managed services and tools saves you a lot of time from having to go in and respond to every individual. The same thing on the customer side. If you have a customer relationship management tool where you have all your contacts and informations, instead of trying to rely on manual processes or spreadsheets to keep track of your contacts, there are CRM tools that can go in and can help you automate and tell you in real time who you should contact and when. Again, as you go in, marketing and growth is another area. There are a tremendous number of tools. And at the slide of the deck, I have a slide deck that goes in and shows you the actual tools and technology that lives here. There's not enough time in this type of forum to get there, but I really just wanted to speak to and to show you some of the areas that if you were to take your business and the way in which you operate and layer it over what you're seeing here, it would help you kind of frame your thinking as to what's next with regard to automation. So I'm going to begin wrapping up and leave a little bit of time for Q&A. I know we're going a little bit longer, but just 3 keys to finding the right tools, right? So the first part is identification. You got to focus in on what your core business need on, right? The second is focus. Focus on what specifically is your either pain point or what specifically is the area that you would like to refine. The third is you really got to think in terms of shared data needs. You got to think need, you really got to think forward, and you have to think data from that perspective. So if you have a team of people, you have to find solutions that can benefit a team of people working on it, not just a singular individual. So with that being said, I know we're going fast, but I'm looking at the time. I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions if available. But I wanted to just say thank you for everybody for your time. This is a lot of information to pack into a small scenario. But one of the things I'll encourage you is to absolutely stay focused, believe in your purpose, believe in the services that you offer. For those who want to continue to follow up, if you would like, it is a passion of mine. While our core focus is in the federal, state, and local, we do commercial support and services as well. But I'm happy to talk to you. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can contact us directly. And for those who would like additional information and to go deeper into some more of the actual tools and technology, please feel free to go to, it's just grow.solutionsmet.com. You can put your contact information and you'll get an expanded slide deck that has a little bit more in-depth on the tools and the strategies as well. So that's a lot of talking on my part. I'm gonna pause here and then just open it up for any questions that I can answer as well if we have time.
Thank you, Michael. In the beginning of your presentation, you asked that the companies list their industry. So I'm just going to name a few. We have construction, commercial real estate, PPE procurement, lighting, distribution and manufacturing, management consulting, civil engineering and survey, waste management, IT professional services, intelligent transportation solutions, project management, construction management and inspection, civil engineering and surveying, pharmacy. But then there are some questions in the chat. Did you want to take a minute
Absolutely.
to comment on the industries?
Yeah, well, no, those are excellent. So I can say I'm familiar with many of those industries. And again, the financing part, the customer part are probably central themes that you all have similar. So when I talked about collaborating and communicating, just because you're in a slightly different industry than someone, don't assume that they have a different problem. Still embrace it. At organizations, ask questions, ask businesses, hey, how are you solving these challenges? And listen and learn from it is what I would encourage.
Thank you, Michael. The first question in the chat, are you currently using drone technology?
Not in our core line of business. At home with my boys, I have a 15 and 11-year-old. Yeah, we're kind of the engineering tinkering family. But no, in my core line of business, we really focus on like large data systems, helping companies digitally transform. We kind of focus and specialize in companies who have a large audit and traceability or financial FinOps is probably the majority of where our core businesses are. But in terms of drone technology, because I'm a geek, I absolutely love it. And yeah, my kids and I do that quite a bit.
Thanks, Michael. Next question. What automation softwares would you recommend? Only aware of Power Automate.
Yeah, so that's why I said this, it's a much larger. So again, from an automation perspective, it's just a tool. So what you're asking me is, it's like if we go to a hardware store, we go to Home Depot and you say, hey, Michael, what tool would you recommend here in Home Depot? No one would be able to answer that question. I'd have to say, what's the project? What are you trying to build or what are you trying to deliver? If you're trying to dig a hole, I can help you identify. If you tell me how large it is, I can say, I can help you in that perspective. So to answer that like without knowing a little bit of specificity, it is difficult for anyone. What I can absolutely say is regarding automation, you really got to take a look at what's the data that you're trying to either transform or change. Are you trying to automate to get a decision? Are you trying to automate to have a repeat routine task completed? There are different tools that can help you get there. So we probably have to delve into a little bit more of the solution, or not solution, the problem or the thing you're trying to solve. And again, I use gardening often because gardening and software development ironically are very similar. If you're trying to plant a tree versus if you're trying to build an entire garden, those are entirely different things, but even though it's in the same sphere of gardening.
Thanks, Michael. Next question. Will it be possible to provide a list of the sources of the data presented on the slide? The print is very small.
Absolutely. So on the slide decks, the sources are absolutely there. So anybody who would like it, like I mentioned, you can go to, I know the slide deck as it is available in this group. But if you'd like an extended deck, you can go to just grow.solutionsmet.com. And there's an entire slide deck with actual technology choices as well. So the individual who asked about what specific tools we'd recommend in that extended slide deck, I do break those down by some of the focus areas, just tools that can help solve, whether it be by finance or by people or technology areas.
Thank you. Next question. Tracking the time I spend on tasks in Excel, can you recommend another technology?
So again, oddly enough, in that example, if you're just tracking, like I said, Excel is a great tool, but what ends up happening is people try to use Excel to start managing business and doing different things and creating pivots and relational information. So if you're really just building, I'll call it a fairly simple list, Excel absolutely is a great tool. There are other, like, again, if you want to get into web services, I'd have to go back and Google them, but there are specific tools that you can. I can absolutely, if you pull up with me after, I can show you some of the ones that I've used that you can, I'll say you can basically say your schedule and they'll even help you kind of recommend where and what you can do. There are certain tools, again, by name, I don't necessarily want to call out brands, but that can even help you that add AI that look at your schedule and can give you recommendations. But at the end of the day, if you're just starting with a simple list and you're ideating over, hey, I spend 8 hours a day doing X, and you map out the week, honestly, Excel is probably a great tool to do it because that's what it's built to do. It's really just to help you look at lists of information effectively.
Thank you, Michael. How will small businesses support the community without depending on technology so much that don't forget to help the community with employment? Second question, part of this question is, how do businesses balance serving your underdeveloped communities and still have automated businesses?
That's a great question. So maybe I can answer the first portion and just use myself. So if I want to reiterate what I think I heard, you're asking, how do small businesses support the community without a dependency on technology? So I reframe it. For me, in our business, technology actually gives us more time. So I know many are concerned about technology replacing an individual, replacing certain things, but what it really does for myself and our business is it stops me from having to think about these mundane routine things that have to be done every single time. For example, like in my household, if I could automate the dishes, I would love to figure that out, because while it's a necessary evil, it's something that just takes time. In my business, I have the same thing, but what that allows me to do to automate, honestly, it gives me time and cycles that I can be available in forums like this, where I can trust that certain pieces, context, my payroll, fully automated. We get paid on the 15th and the end of every month. I know that all of the pieces in place are there. So all I have to do is just make sure that I can watch the trends. I have a dashboard that shows me the information, the timeliness, so it gives back time. I think the second part of your question, how do you balance serving the underdeveloped communities? Again, I think it's that time equation. My personal opinion is every business has some level of responsibility to give back. My personal opinion. So again, in my line of business, it also gives us time, because if we are billing, our individuals in our company have to bill. So anytime that we are giving back, for example, we give to the wider circle, we use very similar time. We have training and materials that we would give. That comes out of our overhead. If I'm asking my team, and I'm paying them for that time. So again, technology allows me to be effective and efficient, so that the portions of what we're passionate about, we have time to be able to do that. The other areas are training and teaching others around technology, in my opinion, also help the underserved communities as well. So bridging the gap to the underserved communities is creating an opportunity for them to have access and to be at the same table as larger corporations and others. So I think for me, it would be a matter of training and letting them use and understand technology. But again, I'm biased because I'm a technologist, but that's a fantastic question.
Thanks, Michael. Next question. Can you explain the portal communication advantages?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's use any platform. It doesn't really matter, but let's use Salesforce as an example. If you have a customer base, so I'll say this, there's customer engagement. If you are intending to engage with customers, you can give them an email. And at the lowest level, they can email you for support or email you for help. Whoever's on the receiving end in your company for email, it depends on how sophisticated. It can be one individual or it can be a group of people. But either way, it's kind of hard to communicate. So the advantage of a portal is this. If I were to send, let's just use this scenario. If I were to send you an email and I have a problem with your product or service, that email goes into an ether from my perspective. It's a black box. I don't have any context as to whether you've seen it. I don't know whether you've read it, and I don't necessarily know how and when you'll respond. However, as a customer, if you give me a portal that I can log into and submit a complaint, you've now given me the ability. I can go in and see my comment. I can see information. You can provide me an auto response. I now have access and information to say, hey, has anybody else asked the same question or had the same problem? When you respond to it, I can see my context. It just gives me an entirely different user experience. And again, we didn't delve into it, but for me and the nature of my business, and I'll say maybe it's our secret sauce, it is the intersection between people and technology, right? It's what is the experience of your customer and how they're interacting with you. The portal is an extension of you. They can't necessarily directly communicate with you, but you've given them an experience and a perception that says, hey, they're engaged. I see the communication. You can now on the, I'll say it, the administrative side, you can have more than one person respond and communicate to that individual because maybe you have different cycles. You have certain people working on Mondays versus Tuesdays. Well, you can have a continuity of support and the user experience. They have one unified. They see your company up front and center. The other portal is you can put key information there. We use our portal with our customers to collect and understand whether it's reporting, all the information that's relevant to them. That's an advantage over just using primarily email as a form of communication. I hope that answers that question.
Thanks, Michael. What is the task management system you recommend?
That's a loaded question because there's so many of them. Personally, internally, again, I'm a software development, so we use Jira personally internally. I do not recommend it for most because it is tailored to software development. But there's so many. Wrike, W-R-I-K-E, is another fantastic tool that I've used in the place. Another one I think is called Monday. Monday.com is a fantastic tool. I've helped, I call it colleagues, set and get that set up. I'm a huge fan of having centralized task management and getting out of email because of just what you can automate and what you can report on. You could actually see if you had all your tasks in a tool, you could actually see all of what you're doing. And I challenge everybody, every task that we're doing, we create a task and it gives us the ability to measure. What I would say is that there are a tremendous number of task management tools. What I would recommend and say is this: start with whatever your email platform is and see which ones have the closest level of integration. You really want to just simplify. If you have Microsoft Exchange, yeah, Microsoft has a task management tasking tool baked into it. You can use that. I think Google Workspace has one as well. They're not as sophisticated because those are really just checkbox type tasking. But internally, we use our task management system for all of our documentation. So when a task comes in, something as silly as this, we had an employee that we needed to reject a time card. That goes into our task management system because then when I need to delegate the time card rejection to somebody, I can associate the standard operating procedure with the rejection. So now I don't have to spend a cycle teaching somebody how to reject a time card. I can just say, hey, here was the last time we solved that task. Here is the information. And that saves us at least like 2 to 3 hours of time.
Thanks, Michael. The next question is, the area we would like to automate is going to each client's procurement page to see what solicitations are out that day, as well as to get information as soon as they update their upcoming future solicitations.
Yes. Yeah, so there are
Michael, are you still there?
It looks like he froze. Let's give him just a few minutes. Charles, can you reach out to Michael just to see if he can shut down and come back in?
Sure, no problem.
Michael, are you there?
Audience, please bear with us. Michael's having some technical difficulties. We're trying to get him back for you because he has some great information.
There we go. I'm back. Can you still hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Excellent. No, I apologize. Like I said, there's I call it Murphy's Law.
Don't worry, as long as we can hear you, because that's some excellent information.
Absolutely. No, it's always something I say it at the end of the day, it's always figure outable. Their technology, like I said, trusting technology is the hard point, and that's a key example. I think the last question was, let me see if I replay. You were asking me, I think we talked about task management. Maybe just can you ask me the last question again? I kind of lost train of thought.
Sure, getting back to that one. The area we would like to automate is going to each client's procurement page to see what solicitations are out that day, as well as to get information as soon as they update their upcoming future solicitation.
Absolutely. So I'll say, yeah, there's two different approaches. There's the more manual approach that I really wouldn't recommend for most individuals unless you have a solid handle on how to actually build what's called scrapers. You can have services or tools that literally go out and look at websites and pull back and pull them into your CRM. This would absolutely be an area that I'd recommend using managed services. There are a couple that I use. I believe it's called Fed Scout. I have to look it up to double check that that is the name of it. Or yeah, Fed Scout is somebody that I would recommend. It's a managed service that has different tiers, but does exactly that. You can put your NAICS code in. It will look at opportunities and source it, and it'll send you back the information in real time. So again, why I recommend using a managed service in this area is if you go the custom route and you're trying to manually automate it, you actually get further away from what you're trying to solve. Because if and when something goes wrong, you're spending more time troubleshooting your automated process than you are getting quotes and services. So absolutely would recommend looking in your field, identifying what the managed service offering. If you're in the federal commercial space, Fed Scout is one. The other smaller route is each of these, for example, Maryland State has Emma, for example, making sure that you're registered and you're logged in. And again, I'll show it to you this way. For example, the Maryland State businesses and automation that we have, when we get solicitations, they come in via email, but we have our email hooked up to that same task management tool that I mentioned. We have a project called Business Development and Opportunity Pipeline. So when Emma sends us an email, I don't necessarily have to focus on the email, but I can look in my task management tool and I can immediately start equating to say, is this of interest or if it's not of interest? And that allows me to do it. So that is a little bit more manual, but if you go to every site and you have a process that can consolidate it and capture it, because for me, I want to look at opportunities in one pane of glass. That's just one mechanism that we use internally.
Thank you, Michael. The attendees are asking, can you put the link to the slide deck and also show your email again, please?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'll put both here in the slide deck. So the first is just, you can get the slide deck at Grow. And then my email is just michael at solutionsmet.com.
If you have any additional
Nice.
questions, please put them in the chat.
Michael, I put the Fed Scout link in the chat too.
Thank you, thank you. I wasn't I had to make sure that was it. I think I just spelled my own email wrong. Sorry, typing and trying to screen at the same time. But absolutely, these are really great questions. And like I said, definitely feel free to pull up with me if you have a more specific question. Happy to drill down. This is a topic, like I said, it is painful because there's just so much information and there's so many options to choose from. Identifying what works for your business does just take focus, and it does take just a little bit of time to understand and to kind of filter it out. But working and partnering with others definitely is an important way to get there as well. Are there any other questions that I can answer?
I don't see any more. Thank you, Michael. Turning it back to our director, Michelle Howard.
Thank you, team. Thank you so much. So, Michael, let me tell you, I am not a techie, but you were awesome. Anytime I could actually understand, like, you know, and follow you in what you were saying, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I think I might know a little bit more than what I thought. You know how you say I keep a little notebook, I keep my little cheat sheet for when I'm doing certain things, you know. But this information has been awesome. I want to thank you so much. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say, can we invite you back another time? We'd love to invite you back. This type of information is always, how you say, useful. And it's always needed. You know, we do have small businesses that, you know, don't know the different types of technology, especially when it comes to what can help them, you know, when they do not have the bodies, right? You know, it's like, okay, I'm a two-person shop and, you know, so technology can help them in a lot of ways, you know, to still stay on top of different things. So I just want to thank you so much for that.
My absolute pleasure. Happy to come back. And like I said, we're a small business and we live at as well We just happen to know how to do some of it along the way.
Thank you again. So for our audience today, I want to thank you for attending our Business Success Series, Volume 1, Grow Your Business with Automated Business Operations. I want to thank Mr. Charles Mott and his awesome guest, Mr. Michael Charles of Solutions Met. I also want to say thank you to our Small Business Programs Office Certification Outreach team for doing an excellent job with bringing and putting this together and collaborating with Charles and his team. I want to thank Suzette Moore, our Senior Vice President and Chief Procurement Officer, for everything and all the greetings that she brought from our General Manager, Mr. Randy Clark. I hope that you were able to learn some important information to help your business grow. That's going to be so important as you do grow it and it gets bigger and you get to certain levels of your business. We do look forward to seeing you at our next outreach. We have one on February the 21st called A Small Business Guide to Commercial Insurance. And then on the 27th, we have Volume 2, and that'll be Networking to Success. So we do look forward to you guys, attending. And remember, certification is the key to participation. So we do look forward to your certification applications being submitted. As Suzette said in the beginning, we do have opportunities. So what we're telling you to do, please go to the website. Please go on WMATA's website. The links and everything are there. Contact information is there because we don't have the direct contact information here at hand to give to you. So we tell you to please check the website and everything. They do post items there and they do give you guidance on where to find different opportunities. So thank you, Charles. Thank you, Michael. And I really appreciate everything. Thank you, everyone, for an awesome outreach this morning. And we'll see you guys at the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
That concludes our presentation. There are links to our upcoming outreaches. Please make sure you click on those links so you can register in advance. Thank you and have a great day.